Welcome to this weekly show where we cover one or two wild stories you know about teen heroes and underdog outcasts from the world of flash fiction. Um, we like to do it in a fun way, an entertaining way, like blockbuster action films.
That's right.
Rate and follow the show for more captivating stories from the Teenage Mutant Fight Club podcast.
Yes.
Today, we're embarking on a journey into two fascinating flash fiction stories that you, our listeners, shared with us.
I love this.
These stories really explore how individuals in ancient settings, navigated some pretty big challenges by using their own unique perspectives and strengths.
Absolutely.
And we think you'll find some truly remarkable insights here, so let's dive in.
Yes. What's immediately striking, at least to me, is how these flash fiction stories transport us to such different historical contexts.
Yeah.
Yet, at their core, they both center on this compelling idea of finding power and even liberation in attributes that might initially be perceived as weaknesses or deviations from the norm.
Exactly.
It's fascinating.
Our first journey takes us to the heart of the Roman Empire and the brutal spectacle of the Colosseum. We'll be looking closely at a flash fiction story called Voices of the Arena.
And then from there, we'll kind of set sail across the Mediterranean to ancient Egypt, to the legendary lighthouse of Alexandria in the Starcatcher. Two vastly different worlds, each with its own unique set of societal expectations and challenges.
Exactly. And both stories feature protagonists who stand apart from those around them in some way.
Yes.
What's so compelling is how this very difference becomes an unexpected source of resilience, of strength, and ultimately a pathway to their own form of freedom.
Right.
So let's begin by immersing ourselves in the world of Voices of the Arena. In this story set in the Roman Empire, we meet Marcus, a slave.
Okay.
And one of the first things you notice is that Marcus experiences what the story describes as schizophrenic visions.
Got it.
Now, in his time, these internal voices weren't understood as a medical condition. They didn't know, right?
Right.
So those around him interpreted them as communication with, malevolent spirits, which understandably led to him being branded with the rather unfortunate moniker Mad Marcus.
Yeah, it's fascinating to consider how societies throughout history, how they've interpreted phenomena that they simply don't understand, right?
Right.
In the Roman context, think about it. Unusual mental experiences would likely have been attributed to, to supernatural forces.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Demons or gods or who knows what.
Who knows?
What's particularly interesting about this story is how this choppy, churning sea within Marcus's mind, something that isolates him, that earns him scorn and derision, paradoxically becomes the key to a different kind of perception. It's almost like a heightened awareness of his surroundings, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah, and when Marcus is thrown into the Colosseum, I think it's fair to assume that his expectation, much like that of the bloodthirsty crowd watching, is a swift and violent end. But this is where the flash fiction story takes a really unexpected turn. The voices, this internal sea he experiences, they shift. Instead of just being a source of torment, they start to provide him with, warnings and things during his very first fight, like dodge, step, block. It's like they're coaching him through it.
This is a crucial turning point, isn't it? What others see as a descent into madness.
Right.
It actually becomes a form of unexpected guidance for Marcus.
Right.
These internal prompts transform what should have been a death sentence into, a surprising, albeit temporary, reprieve.
Yeah.
It's as if his different way of processing information, suddenly translates into this tactical advantage within the brutal reality of the arena.
Right. It's like his brain is working differently, giving him an edge.
Absolutely.
And against all odds, he manages to survive.
Wow.
The flash fiction story points out that this earns him a sliver of respect, which, that in itself is a stark reminder of just how brutal the logic of that world was.
Yes, absolutely. Survival is everything.
Survival, yeah.
But beyond the immediate threat of other gladiators, and wild animals and all of that, there's this more subtle and perhaps more dangerous game being played, isn't there? The intricate web of political maneuvering.
Oh, absolutely. The Colosseum wasn't just about physical prowess. It was a microcosm of Roman society, full of ambition, jealousy, political intrigue.
Oh, yeah. Power plays everywhere you look.
Everywhere. And what's remarkable is how Marcus's visions extend beyond just the immediate physical dangers he faces. He begins to overhear fragments of a conspiracy targeting the champion gladiator through these internal whispers.
Really?
It's as if his unique mental landscape allows him access to information that would otherwise be completely inaccessible to him as a slave.
Wow, that's incredible. It really makes you think about how different perspectives can offer insights that are simply invisible to those who conform to more conventional ways of thinking.
Yeah, it's like he's got this secret back channel of information just because his mind works differently. So Marcus, armed with this potentially life-altering information, makes an incredibly risky choice.
What does he do?
He decides to inform the champion about the plot.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the sheer audacity, or maybe the desperation born of his circumstances, that would compel Mad Marcus to approach the most formidable figure in the arena with such a claim. I mean, he's basically saying, hey, I know something that could save your life.
That's a huge gamble.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes about his inherent will to survive.
Right.
It's a drive amplified by these unusual perceptions.
No.
But of course, the champion, a man who has likely seen his fair share of deception, he isn't going to just take the word of a slave labeled as mad at face value, right?
No.
He's going to demand concrete proof, some tangible evidence to back up this seemingly outlandish accusation.
And this is where Marcus's so-called madness truly becomes a remarkable asset. His vision reveals the precise location of the champion's hidden chipped bronze dagger. It's a seemingly insignificant detail, but one that no one else would have any reason to know.
Interesting.
It's a clever twist in the story. The very thing that sets him apart and makes him vulnerable also provides him with undeniable credibility in this specific instance.
It completely inverts the power dynamic in that moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The champion, initially dismissive, is suddenly confronted with irrefutable evidence that Marcus's seemingly random ramblings hold a kernel of truth. What's fascinating is the champion's reaction. Instead of fear or further scorn, he's intrigued, even amused.
Right.
He recognizes the potential of this madness, this unusual way of perceiving information as a potential tool.
A weapon.
A weapon, exactly, to be strategically employed.
And employ it he does. Marcus's life is spared, and he begins to intentionally use his visions, which, as the flash fiction story progresses, seem to be a blend of genuine internal experiences and his own shrewd interpretation of, overheard conversations and subtle cues to manipulate his opponents in the arena. He's essentially turning their assumptions about his mental state into a strategic advantage. They underestimate him.
He's weaponizing their perceptions of him.
Yeah.
They see a madman, and he's exploiting that perception to his benefit. And this escalates beyond just surviving individual fights, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
He even orchestrates this elaborate escape attempt for a senator in exchange for the promise of his own freedom.
It's a long con.
It really is. This demonstrates a level of cunning and strategic thinking that goes far beyond mere instinctual survival.
Way beyond. And as Marcus's carefully constructed schemes begin to succeed, his reputation within Rome undergoes a fascinating transformation.
Yeah.
His whispers are no longer dismissed as the incoherent ramblings of a madman.
Right.
They begin to be interpreted as omens, maybe even divine pronouncements. The irony is palpable, isn't it?
Totally.
His calculated manipulation is cleverly masked by superstition and fear.
It speaks volumes about how people tend to interpret things that they can't readily explain,
Yeah.
right? Rather than acknowledging the possibility of a different kind of intelligence or a unique way of accessing information,
Right.
they default to supernatural explanations.
Right.
Oh, it must be the gods.
Right. Or demons.
Exactly.
Now, we arrive at the climax of Marcus's journey within the arena. His final, highly anticipated match against a formidable, undefeated opponent. The stakes are incredibly high, his promised freedom hanging in the balance.
Oh, wow.
But something profound shifts within Marcus at this critical moment, doesn't it?
What happens?
The tumultuous sea in his head, this constant noise that has defined his entire experience, it begins to recede. He's left with a sense of his own thoughts for the very first time. Imagine that, after a lifetime of constant noise, sudden silence.
This must have been an incredibly disorienting yet liberating experience for him.
Right.
After a lifetime of being defined by these external or internal voices, depending on how you interpret them,
Right.
he's suddenly confronted with this sense of internal silence, a space for his own consciousness to emerge.
And it's in this newfound quietude that he faces his final opponent. The flash fiction story portrays this not just as a physical confrontation, but as an internal one as well.
I see.
He's no longer relying on the guidance of the whispers. It's his own resourcefulness, his own will to survive that will determine his fate.
Right.
And he loses the fight. It's a brutal defeat.
Oh, no.
But even in this moment of apparent failure, he does something completely unexpected. He laughs.
He laughs.
He lets out this defiant laugh as the Emperor's thumb hovers, poised to decide his life or death.
That act of defiance, that unexpected eruption of laughter in the face of imminent death, it's incredible, isn't it?
It is.
It's no longer the laughter attributed to madness, is it? It feels more like this recognition of the absurdity of his situation, perhaps even a triumphant acknowledgement of the self that has finally emerged from the chaos within.
And it works. The Emperor, perhaps jaded by the predictable displays of fear and desperation, is intrigued, even amused by Marcus's unexpected reaction. And the thumb turns upwards. Freedom. Not granted out of mercy, but seemingly out of a perverse sense of entertainment.
It's a profoundly paradoxical form of freedom, as the flash fiction story concludes. Marcus is finally free from the brutal chains of slavery, yet he remains tethered to the uncertainty of whether the voices will return.
Yeah.
But within that silence, there's the undeniable beginning of something new. A sense of self-reliance,
right.
A feeling of agency born from navigating the most brutal environments, not just through the whispers, but through his own burgeoning understanding and cunning.
Okay, let's shift our journey eastward now, across the Mediterranean Sea to ancient Egypt and the legendary lighthouse of Alexandria. Our second flash fiction story, The Starcatcher.
Okay.
Here, our protagonist is Imara, a woman described as neurodivergent. And right from the outset, we see some interesting parallels with Marcus, in that her unique ways of perceiving the world lead the villagers to label her as touched.
Yes, but the flash fiction story subtly frames Imara's difference in a distinct way. It emphasizes her profound connection to the natural world, the celestial patterns of the stars, the rhythmic ebb and flow of the waves.
Yeah.
It's not portrayed as a source of torment or something inherently negative, but rather as a different, perhaps even more attuned way of experiencing and understanding the world around her.
Right. And this inherent difference leads her to find an unlikely sanctuary in the company of the old, retiring lighthouse keeper. This relationship is absolutely pivotal in the flash fiction story. He doesn't dismiss her unusual behaviors. Instead, he recognizes a unique understanding in her connection to the sea and the winds. It's like he sees something special in her that others miss.
He perceives that she already intuitively grasps the complex patterns that he himself has learned through years of dedicated observation.
Yeah.
He becomes her mentor, nurturing her innate abilities and patiently teaching her the traditional lore and practical skills associated with maintaining the lighthouse.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful illustration of the transformative power of recognizing and valuing difference.
Right. And then comes Imara's first night as the sole keeper of the lighthouse. Instead of simply maintaining the traditional fixed beam of light, she draws upon her deep understanding of the stars to create something entirely new, a dynamic, swirling web of light.
Wow.
This is a significant and potentially risky departure from established practice.
It is, and it highlights her innovative and unconstrained thinking. She's not bound by the limitations of tradition. She leverages her unique perspective and her deep connection to the celestial realm to devise a navigational aid that is far more effective for that treacherous harbor, something that a single static beam of light simply couldn't achieve.
Absolutely. And the effectiveness of her innovation quickly becomes apparent. A storm-tossed ship, facing almost certain shipwreck in the perilous harbor, successfully navigates its way to safety by following Imara's unconventional lighting.
Really?
News of this remarkable feat spreads rapidly, reaching Alexandria. This leads to a huge shift in how her once shunning village views her. Suddenly, the woman they labeled as touched is receiving gifts and newfound respect.
It's a powerful demonstration of how tangible results can dramatically alter societal perceptions, isn't it? What was previously dismissed as a mark of otherness is now recognized as a valuable and even life-saving skill. It's a testament to the power of a different kind of intelligence and understanding.
Absolutely. And this leads to a visit from the pharaoh's emissary. Initially, there's still a sense of suspicion and maybe a bit of disbelief.
Right.
But when Imara accurately predicts dangerous, shifting harbor currents based on her observations of the stars and the waves,
oh, wow,
that suspicion quickly transforms into awe and respect.
Of course.
The pharaoh, recognizing her invaluable ability, offers her riches and a prestigious place within the royal court.
This is the expected reward in such a situation, isn't it? Societal recognition and elevation to a position of power and privilege.
Yeah.
But Imara's response is really revealing of her character.
It is.
She declines the pharaoh's generous offer, choosing instead to remain connected to the sea and the stars,
Right.
the very sources of her unique understanding and fulfillment. Her priorities lie not in societal status or material wealth, but in her intrinsic connection to the natural world and her vital role as the lighthouse keeper.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And because of this unwavering dedication, her unique patterns of light become indispensable to all mariners navigating those waters. She earns the fitting name Starcatcher, a title that beautifully reflects both her deep connection to the cosmos and her extraordinary ability to guide ships safely through the darkness.
Yeah.
And those hushed whispers of the villagers, they shift from scorn and fear to wonder, gratitude, even reverence.
The name Starcatcher perfectly encapsulates her unique role, doesn't it?
Yeah.
She's not just a keeper of a terrestrial light. She's someone who understands and interacts with the celestial realm in a way that directly benefits the practical earthly world.
Exactly. And there's a particularly compelling anecdote in the flash fiction story about a pirate ship.
Oh.
They're attempting this daring escape. Imara, recognizing their defiant spirit, perhaps seeing a kindred spirit in their own way of existing outside the established order,
Right.
she uses her intricate light patterns to chart a secret, safe passage for them through treacherous shoals. She doesn't receive any material reward for this,
Yeah.
but the profound satisfaction of helping others find their own form of freedom seems to be its own reward.
This act of quiet rebellion and empathy, it goes beyond simply guiding legitimate vessels. It reveals a deeper understanding of those who exist on the fringes of society, a willingness to use her unique abilities to aid those seeking their own path, even if it's outside the bounds of conventional law.
Right.
It adds another fascinating dimension to her character.
The flash fiction story concludes by highlighting how Alexandria flourished and remained safe under Imara's steadfast guidance for many years. Her physical appearance naturally changes with the passage of time, reflecting her dedicated life's work.
Yes.
But her eyes, they retain their original brilliance, still reflecting the light of the stars. And the final question posed by the story is, whether Imara ultimately tamed the wildness of the sea, or if, in fact, its untamed nature provided the perfect home for her own unique, extraordinary spirit.
Beautiful.
It's a beautifully ambiguous and resonant ending.
It truly is. It suggests this deeply symbiotic relationship between Amara and the natural world,
Yeah.
where her perceived difference wasn't an obstacle to be overcome, but rather the very key that allowed her to thrive and contribute to her community in a way that no one else could.
So, these two flash fiction stories, Voices of the Arena and The Starcatcher, offer us truly compelling glimpses into how individuals who are perceived as different can leverage their unique minds and perspectives to not only navigate incredibly challenging worlds, but to ultimately discover their own forms of strength and liberation. What are your takeaways?
Precisely. In Voices of the Arena, Marcus's schizophrenia, initially a source of torment, isolation, and societal scorn, it becomes the very tool he uses for survival and even manipulation within the brutal and unforgiving environment of the Roman Colosseum. It illustrates the unexpected ways in which perceived weaknesses can be transformed into significant advantages,
Right.
when viewed through a different lens and applied strategically.
And The Starcatcher, it portrays Amara's neurodivergence not as a hindrance or disability, but as this deep and profound connection to the natural world. This unique way of perceiving and interacting with her surroundings enables her to become an absolutely vital protector and guide for the bustling city of Alexandria. I think it demonstrates the immense and often untapped power inherent in embracing and truly valuing diverse ways of seeing and understanding the world.
What's particularly thought-provoking for you, as you consider these two narratives, is how they challenge our own ingrained assumptions about what constitutes strength, normalcy, and even intelligence.
Yeah,
Both Marcus and Amara exist outside the conventional norms of their respective societies,
right.
yet their very differences become the wellspring of their resilience and their remarkable ability to leave a lasting impact on the world around them.
I think that's a really good point. Think about how these stories challenge our assumptions about what constitutes strength and how societal perceptions of difference can both constrain and, at times, inadvertently empower individuals.
Absolutely.
What stood out to you most as we explored these two journeys?
For me, it's the profound way in which both of these stories underscore the inherent limitations of rigid societal labels, and the remarkable potential for individuals to discover agency, purpose, and even a unique form of power in the most unexpected of circumstances. They really make you reconsider the hidden strengths that might lie dormant in those who are often marginalized, misunderstood, or simply perceived as different.
It's all about perspective, right?
Really is.
We hope these tales from the Teenage Mutant Fight Club podcast have sparked your curiosity, maybe even shifted your perspective on the nature of strength and difference.
That would be wonderful.
Consider the madness that might just hold hidden insights, and the strangeness that could illuminate entirely new paths. What do you think?
Absolutely. Perhaps the greatest strength lies not in unwavering conformity, but in the unique and often untapped perspectives that true difference can offer the world.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this journey.
My pleasure.
Rate and follow the Teenage Mutant Fight Club podcast for more wild and captivating stories. We'll catch you next week with another exciting exploration into the world of flash fiction.